Hi, folks. Joseph Kursky here with you to talk about the following. Be a wise consumer of fun posts too. What do I mean by that?
Be critical of the data principles.
Versions of the following story have made their way around the internet recently. The passenger steamer SS Weremu was quietly knifing its way through the waters of the mid-Pacific on its way from Vancouver to Australia. The navigator had just finished working on a star fix and brought the master, Captain John Phillips, the result. The Weremu's position was latitude 0 degrees 31 minutes north and longitude 179 30 minutes west. The date was 31 December 1899. Know what this means? First mate Peyton broke in. We're only a few miles from the intersection of the equator and the international dateline. Captain Phillips was prankish enough to take full advantage of the opportunity for achieving the navigational freak of a lifetime. He called his navigators to the bridge to check and double-check the ship's position. He changed course slightly so as to bear directly on his mark. Then he adjusted the engine speed. The calm weather and clear night worked in his favor. At midnight, the SS Weremu lay on the equator at exactly the point where it crossed the international dateline. The consequences of this bizarre position were many. The forward part, bow of the ship, was in the southern hemisphere and the middle of summer. The rear, stern, was in the northern hemisphere and in the middle of winter. The date in the aft part of the ship was 31 December 1899. Forward, it was 1 January 1900. This ship was therefore not only in 2 different days, 2 different months, 2 different years, 2 different seasons, but in 2 different centuries all at the same time. Now, this is something that we wrote about in our Spatial Reserves data blog. It's all about copyright, data quality, being critical of data, where to find data, crowdsourcing, location privacy, and more. And we also have a book on these same topics called The GIS Guide to Public Domain Data. Now consider the following reflections. I have successfully used many types of geographic puzzles with students and with the general public over the years, and I enjoy this story a great deal. But in keeping with our reminders on this blog that I just described and in our book, Be Critical of the Data, reflections on the incorrect or absent aspects to this story can be instructive as well as to heighten interest. The SS Weremu was indeed an actual ship that was built by Swan and Hunter Limited in Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK in 1892 and was sunk after a collision with a French destroyer during World War I in 1918. Whether it was sailing in the Pacific in 1899, I do not know. The version of this story on Cruiser's Forum states that it is mostly true. What lends itself to scrutiny? Let us investigate a few of the geographic aspects in the story. First, the statement, working out a star fix, leaves out the fact that chronometers were used to work out the longitude rather than a sextant. And I highly recommend reading the book, by the way, Longitude by Dava Sobel. Wonderful book. Second, the international dateline as we know it today was not in place back in 1899. The nautical dateline, not the same as the international dateline, is a de jure construction determined by international agreement. It is the result of a 1917 Anglo-French conference on timekeeping at sea, which recommended that all ships, both military and civilian, adopt hourly standard time zones on the high seas. The U.S., for example, adopted its recommendation for U.S. military and merchant marine ships in 1920, according to Wikipedia. Again, be critical of the data, I recognize. Third, the distance from latitude 0, 31 north and longitude 179, 30 minutes west to latitude 00 north and longitude 130 west is about 42 nautical miles, and the ship could have traveled at a speed of no more than 20 knots or 23 miles an hour. Therefore, conceivably, the ship could have reached the 180 point in a few hours, but whether it could have maneuvered in such a way to get the bow and the stern in different hemispheres is a little bit unlikely, given the accuracy of measurement devices at the time. Sextants have an error of at least 2 kilometers in latitude and chronographs about 30 kilometers in longitude, or they could have already reached the desired point earlier in the day and not known it. An interesting geographic fact is that going straight east or west on the equator along a straight line, it is possible to cross the dateline 3 times. See map below. Our modern digital world is full of fragments that are interesting, if not completely accurate. But I think as GIS professionals and educators, it is worth applying the
Be critical of the data principles.
even to this type of information. The story is still interesting as a hypothetical what could have happened and provides great teachable moments, even if the actual event never occurred. And by the way, there's also a element of when did the century change? Is it 1899 or is it actually in 1900? We had the same thing going on in the year 2000. Is it the new century? Is it the 21st century? Do we have to wait till January 1, 2001? Here's that international dateline map, and you can see that across the equator, you can cross it several times as I'm drawing with the mouse right here. So fascinating, interesting information where I got this is right here. But the point is, be a wise consumer of these fun posts as well as more serious posts. They can turn into great teachable moments about data quality, geodesy, geography, geographic information systems, mapping, and so much more. Thanks.
Be critical of the data principles.